All right. Hello, YouTube world, YouTube community, those from Facebook who may be joining in. Welcome to another Sunday, and we kind of do a little switch up here. You will now see the title "Conversations with Debra Walter." It was just Conversations with Debra, but now we're talking about Conversations with Debra Walter. As I mentioned last show, we have a new lineup here. We're still on the Ladies Podcast Show. Catch Debra every Sunday, myself every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Felisa every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. Thank you guys for joining the show. We will be talking about interracial dating, interracial relationships on tonight. This is a subject that came, that was brought to my attention, had someone that, shared their views about it. I've never really thought much about it because if you've ever come onto one of my shows, I always talk about what? Love. Love is the key. Love who you want to love. And I think the world would be a better place. But hey, there are people out there with different views about dating in general, but more so there are different views out there when it comes to interracial dating. And so tonight we're going to dig into that topic, into that conversation, and we have a guest that I will be bringing on, who will be bringing you firsthand experience conversation when we're talking about interracial dating. And so also, before we bring her on, if you could just click on the barcode here, the Ladies Podcast Show. If you click on that, it's going to take you right to our YouTube channel. And if you have not already, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, subscribe to the Ladies Podcast Show. All right. Without further delay, I'm going to go ahead on and bring our guests, and we're going to do the introduction. All right. Hi there, Leah. How are you?
Hello, my friend. I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Ladies Podcast Show, Conversations with Debra Walter.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, as you can see, our guest here tonight is Ms. Leah Nelson, and as I mentioned, that we'll be talking about interracial dating tonight. There's a lot of different views on it. And a lot of times you get these views of people who's never been in an interracial relationship. But Ms. Leah has experience. She will be able to give us some good insight. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the first question here. And Leah, if you don't, I'm going to read it out anyways, and it's up on the screen.
Okay.
All right. Interracial dating. How do you think people's views on interracial dating have changed over the past 10 years? And why do you think these changes happen? And if you want to give us a little background, not to cut you off, you want to give us a little background before you go hardcore on that question, be free.
Okay. So just so the listeners know, like that I have experience in this, I have dated outside my culture, my race, most of my adult life. I've been in a long-term relationship, about 7.5 years with my partner now, who is African-American. I have 2 children that are biracial. One is African-American and one is Puerto Rican. And so I have, firsthand knowledge of everything that we're going to talk about tonight, the good and the bad.
Okay.
But,
awesome.
So to answer the question, I have noticed a change, and it's been kind of it's slow and it's been building, and I've actually appreciated it because I've noticed that the older each generation is getting, the more I feel like they're realizing that they don't have to adhere to the stereotypes and the generalizations that their grandparents put on them and great-grandparents put on them. Mm-hmm. The younger generation, I think they just date whoever they want to date. But like my generation, the Gen Xers, I've noticed that a lot of my friends from high school have decided that they're going to love who they want to love, not who their parents tell them to love. And I've been proud of them because I'm like, you're finally becoming yourself. You're finally being you. You're not being this puppet that everyone wants you to be. And I've noticed, excuse me, I noticed a big change when I saw the first commercial, and I believe it was Cheerios that had a interracial couple in their commercial.
Okay.
And it was a huge thing on the internet that like there's this interracial couple, there's a biracial child. But then I asked my son, my youngest son, how he felt about it. And he's like, well, it's nice to see me being represented on there. I'm like, that's the point, because you have people that are from one culture or race or from another, and then you have these people that are in the middle that sometimes feel like they don't belong to either one, that they're not enough of one or they're not enough of the other. So now that they're being represented, I see so many more movies, TV shows, commercials,
Yes.
photographs in the, like when you go at the store and you buy the photo frame and the picture inside. A lot of them now are biracial families, and I'm like, it's nice to see.
What do you think that? Why do you think that is? Well, there were two things that you said, and I want to kind of jump in there. So I know you mentioned that you have, and I don't know if you were speaking to the point of interracial children, where they don't feel like they necessarily fit in with one side of their genes, their chromosomes versus the other. And so with raising interracial children yourself, have they felt that way, not knowing how to fit in? And if you can share a little bit of that for us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. My youngest son is, well, both of my children are biracial, but my youngest son is half Black, and I have very, very strong European genes, and he is very, very, very light skinned. He looks my complexion. But his family is African American. And so he grew up with people questioning him, like, oh, why are you saying that you're Black when look at you, you look white, your mom is white, your dad's not Black. And so he would literally ask me, Mommy, can I take a picture of my dad to school so I can show my classmates that I'm not lying? And they would tell him that he's like, in elementary school, it changed when he was in high school, but elementary school, the Black kids would tell him that he couldn't hang out with them because he didn't look Black. The white kids said, oh, you can't hang out with us because you say that you're Black. So he just like, what do I do? I'm like, find your own group until people accept you and realize that you're just you. Find your own group. And so he realized that he's going to have to start sticking up for himself, and he's got to make his way, and he's got to have a voice and say, I am here. I am biracial. I'm not going anywhere. This is who I am. If you don't like it, you don't have to be my friend. But he is proud that he is a young Black man. He is proud that he is also white.
That's
he
beautiful.
Is proud of both sides of him. He embraces it, and he has no problem speaking up to anybody. But it was hard because he didn't feel like he really fit in. And same thing with my oldest son. He experienced some kids that were being a little bit mean to him, saying, oh, well, my mom and dad said that we can't play with white kids because white kids are dirty. And he's like, well, I'm not white, I'm Puerto Rican. Okay. And they're like, oh, well, I guess you can play with us then. But it's like, he told me about it, and he was like, he was kind of irritated that he had to even say that, because he's like, I just want to play on the swing set with them. I just want to like play. I don't want to be this one thing or another. So it's tough. But now that there are so many people who are biracial that are in Hollywood and in sports and in films and music and in science and doctors and lawyers, our kids can grow up with those people being role models and being like, okay, I'm represented. Yes. It's not one or another.
Right. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful to and they've always been here, guys and gals. Our racial children have always been here. The idea of interracial relationships is nothing new.
No.
It's been around for a very long time. And with that being said, you also mentioned that you're now starting to see, the biracial individuals, biracial people being represented. You're seeing them on poster boards. You're seeing them in the movies more. You're seeing them everywhere. And I have noticed that too. Now, the conspiracy side of Deborah Walter, I can dive into some conspiracy. So just follow me a little bit. A part of me feel like I said, they always existed, you know. So why now? Are they being, is an agenda to push that out there more for whatever reason? Or because, as you were saying, you still have children that are being told because of a certain color of a child's skin they shouldn't play with them or be friends with them. So it's hard for me to believe that there's not a hidden agenda to why the world, I'm going to say the world, is now pushing interracial dating. Do you agree or disagree? You share your thoughts.
I agree. And this is my conspiracy theory mind, playing the devil's advocate also. I feel like, and I've talked to people about this, I was like, who, like, for that Cheerios commercial, like, that's what makes me think of it. The first one I saw, I'm like, who put that commercial out there? And then I thought, I was talking to somebody, I said, I bet you anything that whatever executive of that production company either realized that, hey, you know what? I now have this grandchild who's biracial and I love them so much. And maybe I don't have to be this awful bigoted person secretly because I can't show it to the world, but I can't be this secret bigot because look at this child. They're amazing and they're part of me. And so my hope is that a light switched on in some executive older person's head that thought, we're going to change this. And I'm going to start with, and I'm going to make waves. And it caused a lot of drama. I remember when it first came out and people wanted to boycott Cheerios because of it. And I'm like, do you think that biracial people existed only because that commercial came out? Absolutely. They've always been here. Everybody's always been here. So
that's true.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it was that. I have a feeling it's either that or somebody was like, let's see how far we can push the envelope. Let's see what kind of reaction we can get out of people. Or they were thinking, you know what? Cheerios is Cheerios. Our sales are what our sales are. Let's stir the pot and see if we can like make a splash and we can really like shake things up. And they did, and for the better, because so many people followed suit thinking, okay, we don't have to hide anymore. We can actually promote this. We can promote the people that we love. That's what I'm hoping.
Yes. And then, you know what? And something that you said, and I think is beautiful. I think it's really a profound statement when you're saying the millennials. You may have used the word millennials, but kids, growing up, kids your children's age or our daughter's age.
Yeah.
They are loving who they want to love. They don't care what great grandpa is saying or mom or dad, whatever. Hey, you may have been taught that hatred, but I view the world in a different way. That we're all equal. And I think that in terms at some point it just become, like this big contagion. So for the lack of a better word, to where it spreads in a good way, in a beautiful way. So
if I could share something personal, this has always stuck with me about you and I. You and I had a conversation once, probably about 18 years ago, and you asked me why I dated outside my race. And I remember this clearly. And I told you, I said, I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I told you, who am I to question the person that God made for me? If that person that God built specifically for me doesn't look like me, it's not my place to question his love for me, because he wanted me to be with somebody else amazing. It could be Asian or Middle Eastern or Hispanic or African American. It's
Right.
not my place to question. So if I fall in love with somebody because I love their soul, it doesn't matter like if we're different shades of brown.
Right.
It's
Right.
like because I fall in love with someone's soul, not the pigmentation of their skin.
That's beautiful. And I do vividly remember us having that conversation, and it was definitely out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because I think you said you had never dated inside your race. Was I wrong, or was I?
At the time, I think I only dated like one person inside my race, and it just, everybody has their preference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I've since then, dated inside my race, and still, it's like if relationships end, it's not because for me it wasn't because of a race issue. It was just because
Right.
it ended, and God put me towards the person I was meant to be with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, Leah, we do take a moment here on the show to
All
catch some
right.
questions, and we have a question and we have a couple of questions here.
All right.
Crypto Music Cap said, been waiting on a show like this. This is amazing. Can't wait to hear what you're going to talk about. Thank you for joining the show, Crypto Music Cap. And we have
Thank you.
Mr. Howard Walter. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. And Howard said, why is this an issue? Meaning, why is interracial dating an issue? And, we're just, really, really getting started on this topic. So hopefully, as the conversation and discussion carries on, we can kind of pull some layers back on, that area where, like I said, starting the show, for some people, it is a problem. It is. And so hopefully we can, get some insight as to why they may be. And his other part of the question was more of a statement. It's not an issue for him. So
And I love that.
I love that. Yes,
that makes me feel so good.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever
big hugs for Howard.
Absolutely. So thank you for your statement. Thank you for your question, and hopefully we'll be able to get some insight into it. All right, Mr. B. Walter. This is amazing. We need more of this on Debra show. Okay.
All right, Debra. You got some fans here. You got a lot of fans.
Magic Smith. Hello, Magic. Haven't seen you in a while, Magic. I know I've been missing in action. Last Sunday I was on here. I didn't see you, but thank you for joining tonight. And hey, if you are just joining the Ladies Podcast Show, Conversations with Debra Walter, we are talking about interracial dating. For those who, have no problem with it and trying to get some insight. And the reason we have Ms. Leah Nessa on here with us tonight, she, from her own experience, her own viewpoint, we're diving into that. And for those who just don't care for interracial dating, we want to understand why. And so hopefully we can get some insight as we carry on. So, Leah, with that being said, we're going to move on to question number 2 here.
All righty.
Can you tell us about any personal experiences or challenges you have faced in an interracial relationship, and how did you deal with them?
Yes, I can.
All right, take your time.
A couple of things jump out at me. One of them is when my youngest son's dad and I were together. Him, myself, my youngest son, and his older brother, my older son, we were all out at a restaurant, and we were in a city that he lived in. We moved to that city, and I don't want to say anything negative about a city, so I'm not going to talk about which city it was, but because people are wonderful everywhere. But we were in this city. We went out to dinner or lunch or something, and the young lady who served us was this beautiful, young lady, this African-American girl. She looked at him, looked at the baby, looked at me, and told him, my son's dad, you need to get this white lady out of here. And I was like, what did I do? And she's like, you don't need to be in here with him. You can go sit at a table by yourself, but you can't be with him. And I was like, really? And I was shocked because he really didn't say anything about it, because he's like, just let it go, let it go. I'm like, okay. I didn't want to really react and cause a scene in front of my children.
Yeah.
And so I let it go. But then later on, I talked to him about it, and I'm like, is this what it's going to be like for us here? And he's like, unfortunately, you're going to experience that. And I'm like, I hate that. I hate that. And it, it didn't make me hate it for me. I hated it for my children, but I hated it for her because I immediately felt bad for this young lady because I was seeing for a tiny little second out of her entire life of living in her skin, I saw for a tiny second of the hatred that she had to probably go through. And it hurt my
Wow.
heart that she experienced this. And so she projected it onto me because the experiences she's had with people that look like me. And I
Yeah.
hated that. It bothered me so much. And I'm like, we can't live like this. We can't do this.
Right.
So I tried my best to like be as open and as friendly as possible. And I decided then, like, it was that moment actually that switched something in my brain to not judge, but to be curious. I would rather ask
Mm.
questions than to judge. So I started talking and asking questions. But the thing is, what you experience with your partner may not be, what you experience with, obviously the outside people. And the other experience of bad that I've had with interracial relationships is, and it happens to be both of my son's grandmothers on their father's side have both had I hate to use the word hate, but have had a little bit of a hatred towards me because of the color of my skin. I've even heard my um, my oldest son's grandmother still doesn't recognize him because I'm white. Still will not. My son's 25. Still to this day will not. She's never spoken to him. And anybody talks about him like, oh, we talked to, Leah's son. And she's like, I don't know him. I don't know that white lady. Yeah, she wants nothing to do with us because of my skin. He's an amazing young man.
That is
And
unfortunate.
it is. And so that means he misses out on his Puerto Rican heritage. But luckily, we have other amazing people that accept him and want to share his heritage with him. But then my younger son, his paternal grandmother also didn't think that I was good enough to raise my son. Because when his father and I split, she did everything in her power to convince me to move back to the city I was from and leave my son there with her so that she could raise him, because a white woman could never raise a young black man in her eyes. She told me flat out, you could never raise him, and you're not good enough to take care of him. We're going to do everything we can to take him from you. And that killed me because they didn't do it out of love for my son. They
Right.
didn't do it because, oh, we don't want him to leave. We're going to miss him. When can we see him next? It wasn't about that at all. It was about what can we do to get him away from her. And that hurt me for my
Um,
child. I mean, I have thick skin. I can take a lot, but these kids don't deserve that.
that is so true.
And because of that, because there was judgment instead of curiosity, that strains the relationship, and not just you and your partner's relationship. Because of those things, there, I guess it's either both partners or one partner ends up feeling like, okay, well, you know what? I don't need that negativity in my child's life, and I don't want to fight with that person. So we have to go no contact. And that's not fair, because the only person who gets hurt in this, it's not me,
Right.
it's them. It's the kids who get hurt in this. Because like I said, I get over stuff. I have
Mm-hmm.
a thick skin. I can take a lot, but it's not fair. I mean, I will never, ever, ever know what it's like to be a minority. And I accept that and I understand that. And my tiny little experiences do not make me understand. It makes me empathize, but I will
Right.
never understand because
Mhm.
this is the way God made me. But I always want to ask questions because I always want to know more. I always want to learn as much as I can so that I can be a better partner, a better friend, a better sister-in-law, a better mother, so
Yes.
that I can help guide them through this awful life sometimes, but I can also be a safe space for my partner as well.
That's beautifully said, Leah. And you were talking. You mentioned, the challenges. More so being with the children, not being accepted in some cases by either side,
Mhm.
and hearing you saw what reverse racism does,
Mhm.
and to hear you say instead of you getting upset with the young lady in the restaurant, you empathize with her because at that moment you felt for a very short moment the racism that people of color have experienced for hundreds of years.
Mhm.
Hundreds of years. And just imagine what a better place this world would be if someone thought like you thought, viewed the world like you thought, like you view it. To
I
empathize.
maybe that's why we're supposed to be having this conversation.
Maybe so. And I'm here
Maybe
for it.
so,
I
because
am here for it. It is time.
yeah,
It is
it
time.
is time. Because if everybody says, "Oh, if the world was kinder, if the world was more loving," no, if the world would just ask questions and you know be curious, not judgmental, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to know more about your neighbor or somebody that's different than you,
Mhm.
because then it makes you a better version of yourself. Every time I get to learn more about someone else's culture or their behaviors or their style or their background, it makes me a better version of myself, because then I
Absolutely.
can carry that positivity to the next interaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they say, what is that saying? We fear what we don't understand. And
Hmm.
and I do believe, that's the case the majority of the time. So why not take the time to understand?
Yeah,
Why a black
absolutely.
person hair coils while yours may be straight.
Yeah.
Lee shared a beautiful story, and I don't mind you sharing it
Hell,
again.
you want me to say it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So for all the listeners, obviously Miss Deborah and I have known each other for quite a while. And I remember being at her house one time. This has probably been about 18 years ago, maybe 19 years ago. And she was, her hair was beautiful and straight and silky, and she just got it done. And she was wrapping her hair, and then she like combing it around, and then she wrapped her hair before she went to bed. And I asked her why she did that, and she explained to me about like keeping it the way it was and breakage and everything. She explained to me everything, and from then on, I was like, huh. So I could do that to my hair. And so the day that I wash my hair after it's all nice and straight, when I go to bed at night, I comb my hair in a circular motion and I wrap it in a silk scarf. So when I wake up in the morning, my hair is soft and it's not tangled and it's not crinkled. And I learned that because I asked questions and I didn't judge. Why is she doing that? That's weird. Why is she
Mm,
putting that thing on her head? Why is she combing her hair in a cyclone? No, I asked questions. I was curious. And because of it, it has protected my hair for all these years and it's made it stronger and better.
awesome. I thought it was beautiful to share.
Yeah.
Because it so goes in line with your statement. And I love that when you say, don't judge, be curious, ask
Hmm.
questions,
Hmm.
what you don't understand, seek to understand. And you may just be surprised. It's even when you and I, not to go too much off topic, but even in meeting new people, that don't look like you, and you'll be so surprised to see how much we have in common, how much we all have in common. All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, taking another pause here as
All
we
right.
move throughout the show, just to say welcome to those who have just joined the ladies podcast show, Conversations with Debra Walter. We have our guest on, Leah Nelson, here tonight, and we're talking about interracial dating, the good, the bad, the pros, the cons, and hoping that we can answer some of the questions that you guys may have. Put Ms. Rita up saying happy Sunday to you too, you as
Happy
well, Ms.
Sunday.
Rita. All right. We do have, before I go to question number 3, when creating this topic for tonight, Mr. Howard Wallington, we were having a conversation just to share. And I didn't do any research on this. I don't know if it was a NBA player, NFL player, but some a African American male sports person,
Athlete.
athlete. I don't do sports, so
I know.
help me out. So he is in an interracial relationship with a Caucasian female, and so she was there, I guess, when they call out, what team they're going to be on, and all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Like the draft.
And yeah, the
Mhm.
draft. Told you I don't know anything about sports, and so there was just an uproar in the community, and based on the conversation I had with Howard, correct me if you're still there, more so with Black American females, how they felt about it. They felt like, okay, now that he's going pro, now he wants to get a white lady on his shoulder, and that, I guess, to him, that makes him, even, up one, so to speak, or provides another level of importance for him. Why didn't he just stick with the sister he was dating? Why not just continue to date in his race? Why is it that when he go pro, now he has to date a Caucasian white lady? I completely missed that, that uproar in the community. I did not, like I said, I don't do sports. I didn't see the draft or anything like that. Just conversation with him. And as how we're saying, he doesn't have an issue with interracial dating. He's, been in some, interracial relationships himself. What he does not understand, and give, asking for your perspective, Leah. What he does not understand is uh, why, when it comes to Black men dating outside their race, there's such an uproar. But when a Black female dates outside her race, is like a pat on the back. You go, girl. You grabbed the bag. You secured the bag.
Or I knew where you were going with this. Or they pat his back, saying, "Wow, look at you! You're dating this beautiful
Yes.
Black woman. You're so enlightened. You're so like above the times." And they act like they're so proud of this white guy for recognizing this beautiful Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
But when a Black man recognizes a beautiful woman, whether she's Caucasian or Hispanic or Asian, some people have a problem with it. And it's funny you say that, because when I lived in the same town as you back in the day, and at a job of mine, I had a girl ask me that. She's like, why can't you, why do you have to, actually what she said, and she was blunt about it. She goes, why do you have to take all of our good men? And I was in a mood that day. So I said, well, I didn't take any good man. He's not worth anything. If you want him, you can have him, because he doesn't have a job and he's not going to do anything for you. And she was like, well, you know what I meant. I'm like, I know what you meant, but I was being sarcastic on purpose because it was a stupid question, because, and I in a more sarcastic way, because like I said, I was in a mood. I told her around about the same thing about what I told you about, like, who am I to judge? But I told her, I'm like, how do you know that the person meant for you isn't some Asian guy? You just haven't met him yet. Who are you to deny the person that was meant for you? I'm like, how dare you? And I got a little heated with her, and I was like, how dare you deny somebody the right to fall in love with somebody? You cannot tell me who I find beautiful, because you might be really insecure about yourself, and you might question, why in the world does this person think that I'm pretty or beautiful? Or why do they keep saying these good things about me? And we make all those comments. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't look that good. And so we're putting ourselves down. So how dare you tell somebody they can't find beauty in another human being, no matter what color they are, just because you want them. You think it's not fair because you haven't found that right person. But if you find that right person, are you going to feel the same? Oh, they're taking all of our good men. Well, are you saying all the white men are taking all the good black women? And are you saying all the black women are taking the good white men? What is it? And are you saying that all the black men are taking the good white women? Like, it's a huge double standard. It's a huge double standard. I don't like it. I don't like it. I've experienced it, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And like I said, well, in listening to your discussion there, and a good point that I get out of that is God knows better, our hearts better than anyone. And you have so many out there praying for the perfect mate, the perfect husband, and your Lord, send me this, and this. Some of them have a list. They got to check these boxes, yada, yada, yada. And if race is not one of those things, then let's say that your perfect guy, as Leo was mentioning, is an Asian. You're gonna miss him or her. You're gonna miss him because you refuse to have an open mind about life in general. But I'm hopeful.
No, I agree. 100%.
Absolutely. But I am hopeful. And I think, Leo, before we get to question number 3, to say, I think we're trending in the right direction.
I believe we are.
Absolutely. And before we do that, hear me. Let's has a comment for us. Why do affluent black men often partner with white women? And why do economically disadvantaged black women sometimes choose white men? I'll let you ponder on that one, Leah, and see if you can give us your perspective.
Well, obviously, I can't speak for my entire, race.
Absolutely, just your own personal opinion.
Yeah, my own personal experience. I don't like. It's the word affluent is what bothers me. I don't really like that because me personally, I was raised to if I need to make money, I'm going to make money, and if my partner makes money, then we're doing this together. We're a team. My partner and I are partners.
Yes.
So we're a team, and we're going to build each other up together. But and I hate this. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I'm really not.
It's fine.
But we're being frank and honest.
Yes.
From my experience, when I knew women back when I was younger, in my 20s, that would do just what the question said. They would chase after an affluent, athlete black man or something like that. And they thought, to me, it looked like it was a fad, that they were either trying to upset their family because they were rebelling or something, or they thought it was popular to do it. They weren't doing it for the right reasons, because they wanted to get to know this human being, and they wanted to love that human being, and they wanted to create a relationship with them. That's what it felt like to me, but I don't know what their motives were. And then as far as like disadvantaged black women, that's a loaded state. That's a loaded question too.
It is.
Everybody, shoot, my partner and I now, him and I, we grew up in different states. We come from different backgrounds. But when we talk about it, we have very, very similar upbringings, but completely different. Very similar, though. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't discount one person's situation over another. But what I think this question is portraying is what we've been seeing on TV and social media. And
Yes.
so that has been dramatized so much to elate that excitement, and the
Yes.
drama about it. And some people want to push that stereotype and push that stigma that direction to cause a problem, because if there was no problems, there wouldn't be dramas. There wouldn't be that Bad Girls Club show and all the other nonsense shows about, things like that. So I think that narrative is pushed a little bit on society by media, not like the news, but like social media and what we watch, television, movies, things like that, because they're portraying that. And if they see, oh, well, in this show, in this movie, this young Black woman from a poor community meets this wealthy Black guy, I guess that's what we all have to aspire for. No, you have
Absolutely.
to aspire for what's right for you, and
Absolutely.
stick with what is right in your heart, whether they are Black, white, Asian, Puerto Rican, doesn't matter. So I think that it's been over dramatized a little bit in like in the media about with that whole comment. But that's just
I
my personal
absolutely
opinion.
agree. I absolutely agree with you, especially with social media. I know, I've talked about, on this show, on the Ladies Podcast show, a lot about how social media it has its good points. It has its good advantages. It has its advantages, but it also has disadvantages. And one of those things that
Absolutely.
I talk about is how it desensitize people, so to speak. And you guys talk about and being impressionable. We talk about how kids are impressionable. When it comes to social media, all of us are. All of
Mm-hmm.
us are. It can really get into your subconscious and have you second guessing who you are, your views, and if you're not solid and grounded in who you are, your views, your beliefs, it can unravel some things for you. And so when Leah speaks about, a lot of this is being pushed through social media, that's where I see it. I don't,
Yeah.
my neck of woods, yeah, there are interracial couples, but, but to really just say, and just to use an example, African women, in relationship with Caucasian American males, it's like all over the place. It's like, oh, it's the thing to do. It's the new thing to do. If you want to get out of impoverished Africa, marry you a white man from America.
Yeah.
It's
Let's
all,
try it and
let's
see if we
try
like it.
it. See if it sticks. Forget about
Yeah.
love. And I'm
You
not
know,
saying that some of those couples in that scenario aren't leading with their heart, but I'm saying there are some that are not, and
right.
it's driven because of their state, their economic status, so to speak, and that's just what it is. That's just what it is.
If
Um,
someone feels like I want to get a leg up in this world, um, and so let me go and date this kind of person just for me to get a leg up, that's not authentic and genuine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And hear me say, Leah, considering the demographic changes with the aging white population, do you believe that racial ratios and dynamics might improve in the present and future? Okay, I see where that takes
100%. 100%. Like, I don't know if Hear Me was in the beginning of your of the show when I had said that um, just this past September, October, just this past fall, my partner and I, we went to my high school reunion. I'm going to
you.
age myself here because it was my 30th. And I was so happy to see that women that I grew up with were dating who they wanted to date. And some of them were dating outside their race. And some of them came up to me and they're like, this was the best decision I've ever made because I've never been happier. This is the love of my life. This is my soulmate.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
can't believe I waited so long to open my eyes to who I was supposed to be with. I'm like, I'm so happy that you say that. And they're like, I said, well, what? And I asked one of my friends, I said, what changed? And she's like, well, I didn't really care what my grandparents thought anymore. And I really didn't matter what my parents thought, because I'm going to love who I want to love. So I agree 100% that as the boomers, the baby boomers, and even silent generation are aging and unfortunately passing away, that's kind of taking a load off of people in society, that they don't have to wear that armor anymore, that they don't have to wear that mask of this is who I'm supposed to be because my father said I cannot do this, but I secretly love this boy so much. So they're finally realizing that I get to be me. And we are in a society, even though people talk about like, oh, people are overly sensitive, we're in a society that we are more in tune with our own mental health and our own emotions and our own self. And people, even my age, are recognizing who we are finally. And we're being okay with that. And we're comfortable with that. And we're choosing to love who we want to love instead of who someone else wants us to love. So I 100% agree with that.
I agree with that too, 100%. And to hear you say, which is, it makes me feel, it makes me excited. I'll say that it makes me excited to hear you say that people, even in our own age category, are finding themselves. Self-realization. Something that I talk a lot about on the show, sitting with yourself, understanding who you are, understanding your likes, your dislikes, and also understanding that there is good and bad exist in all of us. All of us. So if we make a conscious decision every day to try to operate more in the good versus the bad,
Yeah,
then the world will be in a much better place. And in
absolutely.
and being honest with yourself, honest with what you like, honest what you don't like, and standing on that. You know, in this context, if I want to date outside my race because it's something that I've wanted to do since I've started dating, and I'm not going to wait till my granddad passed away or my dad passed away, all the ones who oppose it. I'm going to stand up in my reality today. And I'm going to choose me first. And in
Yeah,
choosing me first, I will be more in alignment with how I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to move and operate in this lifetime.
right.
So I agree with you 100% on that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. B. Walter, more comments from B. Walter. I believe race was introduced as a concept to establish and maintain power dynamics, serving as a tool to discourage challenges to that power. Furthermore, said those who felt powerless adopted these concepts to feel more empowered, while others,
100%.
yes, yes, while others lacking awareness simply followed suit.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Because I heard it was on social media and I loved it. Somebody stated, um, I think it was one of those like interviews on the street, it was young people interviewing each other. And this young black man was asking this white woman, or she was a young woman, probably in her 20s, something to do about race. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Um, I'm just another shade of brown. And she's like, um, I'm not white. When you color, uh, yourself when you were a child, you picked the peach crayon or the pink one or the lightest beige one you could get. You never chose the white crayon. And she's like, I'm just another shade of brown. She goes, when you look at the color chart, I'm on there too. She goes, I'm just at the other end of the wheel. She's like, so I'm the same as you. I'm the same as her. She just has prettier hair than me. And I'm like, I loved that she was thinking of it in a different scheme than black, white, black, white. And I'm not talking like race. I'm talking like, you know, there's no gray in the middle. There's no in between. She's like, we're all in the middle. So I'm like,
I like that.
I like that. Like I'm like I'm going to use that. I am just another shade of brown,
That's
you know?
beautiful. I like that. I like that. All right, we're going to get to question number 3 here. And hey, Leah, if it's something that you feel like we've already talked about, that's fine. We'll just put a nice bow on it.
Okay.
How can cultural differences make an interracial relationship better? And what couples do if they don't understand each other's cultures?
Um I can explain more, but the best way I can answer that question is to the
Uh-huh.
beginning of it and to the end of it. Ask questions.
Yes.
Ask questions. Be curious. Have a desire to want to know your partner, because your partner wants to be desired, and not just physically. They want to be known. They want to be understood. They want to feel safe.
Hmm.
And if you, and this is on both sides, if you are open enough to want to ask your partner questions and want to know about their family and their history and their culture and what weird things that you do, and and how they affect you and how you keep those traditions on, if you don't ask those questions, then you're going to have a fracture in your relationship. You want to stay close. You want to keep that spark. That spark isn't just with intimacy and physical touch. It's intimacy in here, and the desire to want to ask questions and be curious with your partner and know. You've got to spread your questions out so that you have a lifetime of asking these questions. But the more curious you are, the more your partner is going to be like, man, they really want to know me. They really want to know my family. They want to know about my history. And here's an example. Um, I ask my partner questions all the time. I ask him, like, hey, what did you and your family do when you were growing up for, this holiday? And did you ever do this and that? And just different things. And what was your favorite memory? What's the best thing you can say about, like, your grandfather and things like that? But then when it comes to our our real history of, like, who we are, where our ancestors came from, my dad had bought me an ancestry DNA kit. And so I took it. And so I shared it with him. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is where I'm from. And he's like, oh, I figured that one. And yeah, well, that one's cool. And then we talked about it. And instead of him being quiet, we talked, and I asked him questions, and he was curious and I was curious. And so he asked me the question, man, it kind of sucks sometimes that white people can trace their heritage back so long, but we can't. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. So not this year, but last year for Christmas, I bought him an ancestry DNA kit because I wanted him to know who he is and where he came from. And I'm like, I was so happy to do that for him because he got excited and he did the swab and he turned it in. And I'm like, okay, where is it? Where are you from? And he's like, wow. And so he got to be excited because then he got more curious about himself. And so then he talked to his mom and he was talking to his sister. He's like, oh, it says we're this percent of this and we're this percent of that. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
because we were both curious, I was able to help him do that. And then he got to be more curious. You just have to be open and be
Right.
curious and not judge.
Right.
That's how you manage that relationship.
Okay. The cultural differences. Be curious. Be curious.
Not
And
judgmental.
and that can kind of, I can see how that can help navigate
Mhm.
um I don't know, the treacherous plane of interracial dating. Like we talk about, not being accepted
Mhm.
in some cases, by either side, and just, and I see how that could be if you don't allow the negativity on either side to run you away from the relationship, don't cause you to fold, but to
Mhm.
stand strong because hey, this is the person that you want to be with, and you show them that, and not just saying, hey, I'm going to show up every Christmas on his arm, but really be present in the relationship,
Mhm.
be present in his family. Just hey, Grandma T, such and such was telling me about when you were, a little girl growing up in the South. I'm curious. I would like to know more about that, and that'll kind of, tear down the walls a little bit.
Absolutely. I it made me think of something. I was talking to his mother at Christmas, and we were talking about all kinds of stuff, and the topic of weddings came up. And I told her, I said, you know what I would do? I said, because, we're a interracial, couple. I said, you know what I would do? I would want to play a game. If we ever, went down that path, I'd want to play a game where every single person that came into the reception had a like almost kind of like a bingo card,
Mhm.
and on there it would be like, okay, go find Aunt Judy and ask her, because she knows sign language and she's an interpreter. Go ask her to learn a new sign, and then so I would have every single person like basically be a game out of it. So I would want his side to go ask my family questions, and I want my side to go ask his family questions, and I would purposely mix up all the tables so that everybody is sitting with everybody, three
Uh-huh.
and three. Nobody sits with who they want to unless you're a couple. You're going to sit with whoever we tell you to, and you're going to learn something about. It's an icebreaker, but
Yes.
it's going to be fun. And I'm like, go go find Uncle John and ask him about this, or
Uh-huh.
go find Debra. Her name is Debra. I'm like, go find Debra and ask her about this. And I know it would take me a long time to figure out a fun question to ask them that would be an open-ended conversation, but it would make people curious, and it would
Yes.
make people. I'm envisioning a party of just laughter and
Oh.
talking and
Mhm.
smiles, and even people who are a little older that might have to sit in their seat, people can come to them like, I'm over here, come find me, I'm on the bingo card, and I don't know if there'll be a prize at the end, but it would just be, I think it'd be a fun night that would seriously bring families together, not just because of a unity of two people. It bring them together because they realize, oh, we're like-minded. We just look
Mhm.
different. Hey,
Mhm.
we have the same job. We just look different.
Yep. They will find that they have more in common than not. And I think that'll
Yeah,
be a fun game. That would be a
that would
fun
be a
game.
fun game.
That would be an awesome icebreaker for at a
Yeah,
reception.
it would be.
Yes. All right. Crypto music cap. Deborah, how do you feel about interview question for the interview? Okay. Deborah, how do we feel about the idea of dating someone from a different racial background should you choose to do so? Um, if I was available, which I'm not, I am open to it. Hey, I promote love on this show. Always lead with your heart. They have that saying, see no color. I'm gonna say do see color. You need to see color. And I say that to say this because if you don't see color, then how are you gonna be curious, as Leah say, to ask the questions to
Hmm.
get that understanding? So I don't mind seeing color because I know our God, the universal source, is so creative in his creations that hey, that's why we all these different flavors, shapes, and sizes
Yep,
with different personalities, characteristics, background. It just makes the world a more interesting place to be. If we were
doesn't it though?
all the same, how boring would that be?
That would be so boring. My
Absolutely.
my oldest son asked me one time when he was little. He's like, Mommy, do you wish you had a perfect son? I'm like, no. I'm like, if I wanted a perfect son, I would have built a robot, not had a baby. And he was like, all right then. I'm like, I like that you're a weirdo because it makes you you. Like,
Exactly.
I like that we're all unique and different. And it's funny that Crypto asked that question because you were curious about something and you asked me that question that day,
Uh-huh.
and you were curious, and it's like
Yes.
that opened a dialogue between us
Mhm.
instead of us thinking in our head for the rest of our lives, I wonder what they think. You were
Mhm.
curious. we
Mhm.
should be we should be more curious by nature, because
Yes.
I think people are afraid to ask questions because they're afraid either the answer they're going to get or they're afraid that they're going to offend. Well, think about your question before you ask it, and don't be offensive, but be curious.
Right. All right, now, Lee, I'm going to
Question,
head to the
Crypto.
fire here. Crypto said, I danced around the question. So let me read this question again slowly. Debra, how do you feel about the idea of dating someone from a different racial background should you choose to do so? If I was available
She's
and
not.
I'm not, and if someone outside of my race approached me, was curious about me, curious to the point of, want to date me, I would not say no simply because they're not in the same race as I am. I would be open to it, and I would entertain it. I would entertain the idea. I hope that answered the question for you.
I
I
think you
can
did.
shake it up any differently.
I think you answered it pretty well.
Okay.
No
Well,
dancing on that one.
all right. Well, we're going to try to get to these last couple of questions.
Okay.
Number 4 says, how do you talk about race and identity in your relationship? And what tips would you give to others in interracial relationships for having these talks?
I try and ask, like me personally, I ask him about his experiences, good or bad. I want to know all of it, because I want him to feel safe. Because obviously, maybe not obviously, that's a horrible thing to say. Yes, he's had bad experiences with people that are the same complexion as me, and I've seen it while we've been together, and I've seen the way people treated him, not because we're together, but because of what he looks like, and I don't like it. But I I don't get upset. I allow him to have the feelings that he has, because he has every right to be mad. If someone disrespects him because of his race when we're out together, then I am team him all the way. I'm like, I've got your back. I'm like, yeah, that was ridiculous. Like, I can't believe they talk to you that way. What is their problem? They don't even know you. Who do they think you are? And like, you got to have their back, because you want them to have your back. Because
Right.
if somebody disrespects you, from a different race, you don't want them to just say, well, she'll figure it out. No, you want them to be like, man, I'm mad for you. You got to be mad with them, because you cannot diminish their feelings, because it's not your experience. You cannot deny their experience. You almost have to embrace their experience, even though you will never understand it, ever. You have to embrace it as that's part of who they are, because it's helped shape them as an adult. And hopefully this new generation will experience a little bit less than that. I know they won't experience none of it, but they'll experience a little bit less, a little bit more understanding. But you have to not just allow them, and I hate to use the word allow, because of course they can have their own feelings, but you have to embrace that and be like, I'm in it with you, 100%. And it can't be I hate the term, relationships are 50-50. Especially in interracial relationships, they're 100 all the time. Because even if I was raised a certain way, where I was like, when I walked into my relative's house, I had to, address them a certain way. That's maybe the way I grew up. But then if I walk into his relative's house, I had to be curious, and I had to watch, and I had to be aware and, observant about how they interact with each other, so that I can fit in and be like, I want to be accepted too. So I'm like, if I walk in, I can't just be like, hi guys. I'm like, come on. Hello. Merry Christmas. Hello. Hugs. How you guys doing? I love you. It's like, you can't be scared to jump in.
Absolutely.
Because if you're going to be in it, you got to be in it.
You got to be in it.
But not be disrespectful in it. Be curious, ask questions, make sure that you're doing the right thing. And I have not met anybody that I've asked a question to that's been like, well, you're not allowed to ask that question. You should just know. I want to know. That's why I'm asking the question. So anytime I've thought about my question, asked it in the right way, every time I've gotten a response, it's been nothing but respectful, because I've come at somebody from a different culture in complete respect.
That's beautiful. It always goes back to being curious.
Yeah. And
Ask the
he's the
question.
same way with my family. Like, he's going to get to meet my dad for the first time this March, and I'm so excited.
Nice.
And they already love him, and my whole family loves him because what they've heard, and they've spoken to him on the phone and video chats, and because of the way he treats me, they know that he's amazing. And he's curious, and he asks questions, and he's like, he even came up with the ideas. I was like, man, what am I going to do with my dad when he comes to visit? And he's like, I have an idea for you. So he is like giving me ideas and making plans for my kids and I and him to do something fun with my dad. He's like, let's take him here. Let's go here. I think he would like this. And that to me is exciting because he's participating.
That is awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. All right, we got our one last final question here. And it says, how do family and community affect how people feel about interracial dating? And what can someone do if their family or friends don't approve?
Um, well, that happened. My maternal grandfather did not approve at all, for both of my children's father. Had very, very, very unkind words, very unkind words. And instead of directing him towards them, and I can say this because he's my family, and I don't really care. He was too much of a coward to say it to them, so he said it to me.
Mm.
And I flat out told him, I'm like, you don't have to agree with this. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to talk to me anymore. Because if you don't like the fact that my children are biracial, then you don't like me, because they're a part of me, and these children are your blood. And if you're going to deny your blood, you deny me. And so if you want to be hateful and be like this awful person, then you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. And nobody's going to want to be around you. Because after this, and I actually told him this, my grandfather, I said, after this moment, I won't think of you anymore. I won't speak to you. I won't talk to you until you can come to me with love and respect and affection for these children who are your family. I won't think of you. And it took him a few years, and with a lot of conversations with all my aunts and my grandmother, and tears, and them being like, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you.
Mm-hmm.
It opened their eyes up too, to, whoa, our dad raised us like this too. What does this say about us?
Oh, wow.
We can't let him talk
Mm-hmm.
to her like that. We can't do that either. So we got to stand up ourselves also. And he came back years later, and in his version of an apology, he had tears in his eyes, and he randomly saw me at a gas station with my youngest son, and he was like, and I was polite, hey, how you doing? All right, nice to see you. I gotta go. And he's like, hold on a minute. You got a good looking boy there. And I could see his eyes were welling up with tears, and it was the closest he could ever come to say, I'm sorry. And then he's like, can you do me a favor? Can you bring the boys to my house? I'm like, whoa, they were never allowed in his house before.
Oh, wow.
But I'm like, yeah. And then at the end of his life, we went back home to visit, and everything changed with him. Something snapped where he stopped being that hateful person.
Mm-hmm.
And because somebody called him out on his crap,
Mm-hmm.
on his racism, on his bigotry, and his ugly heart.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, we went to visit, and I went to visit him, and I was blown away. We went to the retirement community he lived in. I went to the front desk and told him his name. They said, he has been talking about you for months. These must be your children. He has been bragging about how beautiful his great grandsons are. He has been showing pictures to everybody. And I walked in there, I was like, I could not believe my eyes. He had pictures of my sons next to his bed. He had told everybody about them. And it made me realize the whole, additive, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
In his final days, like his final years, he was like the Grinch, and his heart grew 3 sizes that day,
That's
because
beautiful.
it was nice, but I hated the fact that he lost so much time with us because of his
Right.
hatred.
Right.
So
Right.
the only way you can combat that is to either face it head on
Mm-hmm.
and continue to fight them,
Mm-hmm.
or do what I had suggested. If they don't want to be curious, you have to draw the line, like, all right, you know what? We have to go no contact. Until you can do right by
Mm-hmm.
us, you have to go no contact. And either you'll be no contact forever, or they will come around. And either way, you're either going to have a more peaceful life for your children, so they don't have
Yes.
that negativity and that little conniving comments,
Yes.
or or you're going to have a loving grandparent or a loving family member in your child's life. But I was
That's,
lucky that on my other side of the family, I asked my grandmother, does it bother you that I'm, have children with somebody outside my race? She said, no. um, it's not something that, I choose, because I fell in love with your grandfather and he's my soulmate. So it's not what I choose. But if you find the love of your life and they're of a different culture, then go for it. And I was like, that was the most enlightened, at the time, 70 something year old lady. I'm like, who would have thought that somebody that is
mm-hmm.
such a conservative, background would be so enlightened? And I immediately respected every single thing that she had to say in that conversation. It warmed my heart. And she loved my kids like you wouldn't believe until she passed.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. One of the things, I think one of the important things that I take from the piece you just said is boundaries, demanding respect. And it's something, one of the other things that we talk about on the Ladies Podcast show, be it you're a friend, a family member, someone that you're dating, you have to demand respect. And I like the way you use the words. We have to go no contact.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah.
to go no contact, because you're either going to be in my life and respect me, or you can continue to be disrespectful, but it ain't going to be with me.
Yeah. And unfortunately, my both of my sons, the other side of their family, their father's side of the family, we are no contact, because they choose to not be positive features in their life, or they choose not to be in
Hmm.
their life at all because of me.
Hmm.
And my sons have the choice to have communication with them. They're choosing not to, because they've said, I'm the kid. If they are not reaching out to me, if my dad's not reaching out to me, then I'm not going to chase him.
Right. That's right.
So, but I I've told them this so many times. I count ourselves blessed, because our family loved them ridiculously. And we're in a family now who loves them so much and accepts us so much. They love my kids. They love me, and I love them so much. Like, I consider them my family. I like, hey, we're going to go to the family's house. We're going to go to
Hmm.
my sister-in-law's house. Like, we're having the family over. It's not, oh, this is his family. No, they're mine,
That's
because
beautiful.
we've chosen them to be our family. And I think
That's
that's as
beautiful.
important. I think choosing your family is as important as blood family.
I believe that 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So, Liv, this has been a great hour talking to you about interracial dating.
I'm so
And
glad.
we set out to answer the questions, well, what are the pros and cons? What's the good and the bad? And and the ugly, is it worth it? And for me, where I think we landed is love who you want to love, lead with your heart, and regardless of the race, you know, you should be in a relationship with someone with all the right reasons. And
Hmm.
that should be leading with your heart. You know, I know that's not always the case in this, this sometimes complex, difficult world, but I think the outcome will be so much better for you as an individual, so much better for us as a world, if we led with our heart. And if you find
Hmm.
yourself in an interracial relationship, be open minded. As Leah said, don't judge, be curious, ask questions,
Hmm.
and be prepared for the tough moments. Be prepared that you may not be accepted on one end or the other. And
Hmm.
be steadfast in following your heart and doing, putting yourself first.
Yeah.
Nothing worse if you do it for the wrong reason or if you do it for someone else. Well, I love this person. He's not of my race. I'm so attracted to him, but because I wasn't taught to date, I was, shamed into dating
Yeah.
a race. I'm just gonna forget what my heart is saying. But you're suffering in the end. So
Hmm.
all in all, put yourself first. Love who you want to love. Be prepared because all is not accepting. All is not accepting. Be supportive of each other.
Hmm.
Be supportive
You
of
have to learn to love their soul, and
yes,
and then you're going to get the same in return.
yes,
Because whether it's not about race, it's about the person's soul, because that's where you're going to get that true intimacy. And
yes.
if you can just sit in quiet and just be with each other and not feel like you've got to constantly talk, and you're like, I just love this person's soul,
Hmm.
then the race doesn't matter. But like you said, and it's not just about you being curious. You got to be prepared for their family to ask you questions too. You got to
Yeah.
be prepared. You got to have the proper answers and respectful.
Hmm.
And because everybody's culture is different, you got to know who the head of the household is in everybody's family, and know this is the person that I have to show my total respect for. You can't just walk into someone's house and think that everyone's going to accept you. You got to give them a chance to warm up to you and also be curious of you too. So you have to be open to
Hmm.
your for them too.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for
You're
joining
welcome.
us.
Thank
You
you
have
for having me.
great experience, great insight into the subject. I know I have learned something tonight. I have. We had great comments coming from our community, YouTube community, more so. And I really enjoyed the show. So hopefully we can have you back
Absolutely, anytime.
sometime in the near
Just
future.
just call me, text me anytime, and I'll be happy to jump in with you.
All right, I appreciate it. You have a good night, and you guys
Thanks,
out
you
in
too.
YouTube world, have a good night.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.